Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If all I get's a moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. Cause lately I've been seeing stars, trying to kick out on this short course. But it's no holds barred, middle fingers like I'm Stone Cold.
Oh my! What happened to my car? Go back! Where are you? Go back! Go back! Go back!
Hey Moses, where's my car, man?
Space 22, man.
22.
22! Oh man! Oh man! Oh man! Oh man! Go back! Where are you? Why me? Why me? Why me?
And what is up, ladies and gentlemen? This is WeTooDeep with another episode of the Slapping Me Wrestling podcast. Just wanted to start that off with my two favorite clips of Sid Vicious or Psycho Sid. Rest in peace, man. Prayers out to the family. Just as a wrestling fan, though I wasn't around during his career, when you become a fan of this, like wrestling and the wrestlers and the wrestling fan base sort of becomes like a second family. And so we lost a good one in Sid, and one of the greater big men in wrestling. So yeah, rest in peace. Those are my two favorite segments. Anytime I see him, I'll laugh my ass off every time I see those clips. But let's dive in. Let's get the housekeeping out of the way. First link in the description, whether you're on audio or whether you're on the video, takes you to the WWE shop through our affiliate link. Click that link, buy your merchandise. We get a small percentage back for you guys using our affiliate link. That's the first link in the description. Go get you the OTC shirt so that you could salute the original tribal chief. Outside of that, join the Discord. That link is also in the description. That's where the conversation happens about the show, about wrestling on a week-to-week basis, on a daily basis. When we're not recording, we're still having conversation in the Discord. But let's jump on in. You might be wondering, why is this episode titled the way it's titled? Well, we are going to do our No Mercy predictions, as that is on Sunday. But support indie wrestling tends to be a more hardcore fan mantra, and I want to cover that. There's a reason for it, and I want to talk about that. But before we get there, I want to talk about Monday Night Raw. Wavy D didn't, he was working on Monday night, so when we did the show Tuesday, he hadn't watched Monday Night Raw yet. So I didn't want to sort of review it and him not be able to say much, right? And so I want to give my thoughts on a few of the things. Now, overall, very bad go-home show, in my opinion, right? So we do a 1 to 5 here at the Slapping Me Wrestling podcast because that's sort of the typical wrestling scale that most wrestling fans know because of Dave Meltzer is a 1 to 5. And so if on that scale, I'm giving it like a 1.5, right? It's like a 1.5 star out of 5, which would be a 3 out of 10, right? And so that it was just bad. It wasn't even so like The Casual Wrestling Show, they have their out of 10 scale, and Nerdy D over there has like a 4 as like listed as like confusing. He's put some adjectives to go along with the numbers, and so like 3 is bad, 4 is confusing, stuff like that, right? I wasn't even confused. It was just a bad episode, right? From start to finish. And anytime, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to be a hot take, but anytime you end your show with the Wyatt Six, that show's bad. That's a bad show to me. When Uncle Howdy's the main event, when that's the big ending of your show, it's a bad show to me. There should have been no reason why Bronson Reed, Braun Strowman didn't end the show. There's no reason for why that didn't happen. So those are the 2 things I have the most critique about. The only thing that I really liked, and I'll be honest with you, is Randy Orton's promo. I think Randy Orton did a very good job tying together what they've been trying to accomplish leading into Bash at Berlin tomorrow afternoon. And so he did a very good job of wrapping this up, trying to sort of explain what should have been done, right? And really giving us this feeling that Randy Orton has a very good possibility of winning this match. And I think from the get-go, that's what they've been trying to accomplish, was Randy Orton seeming like he's going to win. But when I did my predictions, I told you guys, I think this is going to be Gunther destroying Randy Orton. Like bad, like beating the living hell out of Randy Orton. To make Gunther look like a dominant champion when he steps in the ring. Does he need to work on the promo? Sure, that's fine. But that's not. But as I've been trying to say, that's not who Gunther is. Gunther's not going to be the flashy promo guy. He's not going to be the flashy gimmick, the flashy entrance. This is just going to be, play my music, let me walk to the ring. When you ring that bell, I'm the best in this ring. And that's what this was always intended to be with Gunther. That's all this is. And so Randy Orton did a very good job Monday of tying it all together. And I enjoyed it a lot. But that's about all overall that I enjoyed. So I really want to go on this rant real quick on two areas of this episode that were just dreadful. Just dreadful in how they booked it. And I sort of alluded to it on Tuesday. Triple H cannot book a heel to save his life. So it's the Bronson Reed story. And then it's the Wyatt Six, that main event match. That was just god awful. And I told everyone, man. I told everyone, once you get in the ring, it's where you're going to lose people. And it has to get to the ring. Because this is what would happen. If you would just do what should have happened, and it just become them backstage kidnapping and torturing people, or whatever, and that's all they were. They were just like a little spooky part of the show, and they didn't wrestle. You would have the wrestling fans who require matches complaining. You would be like, well, right? You would have them complaining, and right, so that it had to get to the ring. But once you get it to the ring, one of two things have to happen. The first is you either have them dominate everyone where they don't give two shits about the rules. They don't care about wins or losses. They don't care about championships. They just want to enforce justice, which is the way they should have carried this, where they find a person who they feel is unjust, and they issue Wyatt 6 justice, right? And they issue that. And that justice is mind games and beating the hell out of them once it gets into the ring. Beating the hell out of them. Not caring about rules, not caring about wins or losses, but just, Nerdy D from Casual Wrestling Podcast likes to say that they should just be Batman. They should just pop up out of nowhere and beat up on the bad guys. They should, right? And that's all this should be. But instead, what you get is I don't like, Chad Gable turned on his family. He betrayed his family. He's mistreated his family. So we got to take care of this. But we're going to get in the ring and we're going to get our asses kicked by American Made and Chad Gable for several weeks. So when Howdy gets in the ring with Chad Gable, he then gets his ass kicked by Gable, but still somehow pulls off a win. And none of it makes sense. None of it is good. And now, like I predicted, once they got it into the ring, these fans who were all for it at the debut, slowly but surely, are going to start turning on the Wyatt 6. Slowly but surely, they're going to hop on the train that I was well in front of. Well in front of. To the point to where I didn't care about the QR codes right until the debut seemed imminent. Then I started to care about it. Then I started to maybe get a little bit hopeful because these QR codes were telling stories and not just leading to random places. So when Bray Wyatt came back, like he had like the White Rabbit shit, right? And his QR codes were literally just taking you to places that were named like the White Rabbit or something. Had nothing to do with the storyline, right? And none of that got solved, right? So when I saw these QR codes and they were somewhat telling storylines, they were somewhat trying to piece together a story through the QR codes, I was like, maybe they learned their lesson from this. So I'm gonna get a little bit pumped up for it. Then they came on TV and you lost me. I was well in front of this, right? I was well in front of this, that this is going to be bad. And I'm on record on the podcast on X, June 17th, 2024, their debut, saying this will not work. That once you have to get it in the ring, and once it's in the ring, it will not work. You already have fans calling for Uncle Howdy to be champion, which he shouldn't even give two fucks about. Howdy should never care about championships. That's not what the gimmick's about. That's what ruined the Fiend. Right? This isn't me trying to just like, oh, Taylor Rotunda. No, Taylor Rotunda's very good at this. And that's what's upsetting, is he's very good. It's just the booking's leading nowhere. All this is a tribute, passion project for Bray Wyatt. And that's fine. It doesn't belong in the main event. It belongs somewhere in that middle hour where the hardcore fans can get what they want, and then you push on with the show. It should just be sort of part of the show, like a sideshow, a piece of it, but it should never be the biggest thing that happens on your card, because that means your show was bad. That means your show that you have planned for that night, if it's the main event, if it's the biggest thing, if it's how you're going to send people home, you have a bad show. Sorry, that's just how it is. It's just how it is. The gimmick is not good. And it's about time that people recognize it for what it is, as a passion project. And that's not a bad thing, But please just understand that this is not good. And when people start to critique it, it's not that we don't like Bray. Bro, I can't tell you, man, when I heard the news that Bray died, it hurt me. Like I said, it hurt me because he was someone that not even in the ring, but outside of the ring as a human being, the dude was such a good dude. Right? I'm not saying that we have, right, but it's been a year, dog. It's time to move on from it. And the family can grieve, and that's fine. If this is how Taylor wants to, but I've been said that if this was a spin-off show on Netflix as a way to sort of benefit and maximize the Netflix deal, hey, we want a spin-off television series called The Wyatt Six. And it became separate of itself, and it was its own entity. It would work. It would work. If you gave me something like that, I believe that would work because the fans of Bray Wyatt could then have something to watch in and of itself, where it's inhabited in and of itself. It could be some sort of horror thriller, right? And have a TV show based off of it. Perfectly fine. But having it as part of this wrestling show, where the rest of the show is Drew McIntyre and CM Punk fighting over, what seems like a blood feud of a realistic hatred for each other, or Gunther and Randy fighting each other, with Gunther, being very realistic and making things personal, right? When everything else on Monday Night Raw is based in some sort of reality-based storyline, and then you get, we just want to serve Batman justice, dressed up as costumes out of Spirit Halloween or Party City with fog machines and we're going to turn the lights off and mask and spooky, right? It doesn't fit in the show. And so right, but if you gave it the spookiness on its own separate program by itself, where that's all it is, and you tell stories with it, you could still run the Bray Wyatt Passion Project through there. I think it's perfectly happy, or perfectly can happen. Uncle Howdy as a TV character would be perfect. Have the others, right? I also feel like we should have had a bigger build to understand who the characters are, right? You should have had Uncle Howdy on screen recruiting these members. Seeing him in NXT, recruiting Joe Gacy, seeing him on SmackDown or Raw, recruiting Dexter Lumis, trying to pull him away from Indy Hartwell, seeing them go after Nikki Cross, seeing them maybe writing a letter and sending it out to Redbeard, fighting in MLW or wherever he was fighting at some indie show. You should have Uncle Howdy show up at an indie show that Redbeard was working on, right? And say, come with me. You're lost. I can make you found. But we get none of this. We get no backstory. And all we get is crazy nothingness, right? So yeah, the Wyatts pissed me off again. And the fact that this was the main event and they ended the show with this, just Howdy getting beat down, right? Guys, I've been saying this for months now. The gimmick's not good. Now people are starting to recognize that maybe I was onto something, right? So then the second thing that made Monday night very bad was Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman. And I know a lot of people are trying to justify this segment, but there's no reason, one, that this wasn't the main event, but two, when it did happen, there's no reason why the match shouldn't have finished in the ring and then you do the beatdown backstage. But two, like, you had the perfect opportunity to build a badass, give no fucks superstar, and again, you have to make Braun Strowman look strong so he gets some offense on at the risk of making Bronson Reed look weak. Because what you're hoping is that the normal fan, the fan that's watching, forgets that Bronson Reed looks weak as he's doing the tsunami 3, 4, 5 feet in the air through a car. And people like me who, care about the story and care about character building, I see this and I say, okay, well, he took out Seth Rollins very easily, took out R-Truth very easily, was coming after The Miz, right? Braun Strowman interferes. This is fine. Put him in the ring with Braun Strowman, have him absolutely destroy this big motherfucker. But instead, you have Braun Strowman, the bell rings, and Braun Strowman starts to beat the shit out of Bronson Reed. From the get-go of this match, you ruined Bronson Reed to me. Right? He starts to get some offense, doesn't do a tsunami in the ring that I can remember. Right? You should have had this match start, Bronson Reed truck over, like just run through Braun Strowman, maybe a senton to sort of lay him out in the ring, and then have 10 tsunamis. Have 10 tsunamis. On the 10th one, right, have it take a little bit longer for him to set up. I don't know if you guys know the logistics of exploding the ring, but you essentially, for I think with WWE's rings, they have to like pull pins out to get it to fall apart. Or whatever. So set it up however you need to. Take some time. Right? Do the 10th tsunami to where the ring explodes or implodes. Right? The referee checks on Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman's out. The ref, with ref decision, calls an end to the match, calls out the ambulance. I know you guys saw the medical van in the parking lot while they were beating each other down, right? I know you saw the medical van. Call the medics out, put them on the gurney, push them out back where that medical van was, and Bronson Reed follows them to the backstage area. Right, he pops out of nowhere, attacks the medics, grabs Braun Strowman, gets him off the gurney, starts to beat him down some more, smashes his head through one of the cars, lays him across the other, climbs up the giant wall, and does an 11th tsunami through the car. And that's how you should have ended the show. It's real simple. But Triple H doesn't do it. And it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. You book it that way, Bronson Reed's the badass who gives zero fucks. You have a holy shit moment with the ring imploding that we haven't seen in quite a while. But then you also have the holy shit moment if he just tsunami'd him through the fucking car. It makes no sense why you don't try. Triple H, why are you not building Bronson Reed to be this guy? You had a superstar in the making, right at your fingertips. But instead, you make him look weak. Then you throw him in some IC tournament where he's ultimately either going to win the tournament to face Braun Breaker and then get fed the Braun Breaker, or he's not going to win the tournament match. Because I'm telling you right now, Kaiser and Dragunov are winning the 2 matches on Monday. Next Monday will be Kaiser and Dragunov. That's my prediction. That's my prediction. Will be Kaiser and Dragunov for the IC title. I don't understand what Triple H is doing. I told you guys he's not as good as everyone's sort of hyping him up to be. He feels like he's copy-pasting things. This works with this story, so we're going to copy it, change a few of the details, and try to make it work in this story. Right? We're going to build baby faces, but forget to build solid heels to follow them. That's all that the Cody Rhodes story is. You build a really, really good baby face, but you don't provide any heels for Cody Rhodes to fight. And then you turn the biggest heel in the company babyface. The biggest heel on SmackDown right now on their paper is Solo Sikoa. And I think it's the year of Solo. I love Solo Sikoa. But he's not a reliable heel right now. He's good, but I don't know about you, but I'm tired of seeing Cody versus the Bloodline. I'm tired of seeing Owens versus the Bloodline. Or the Bloodline needs to be what I just said, the Wyatt Six should be sort of localized within itself. That's what the Bloodline needs to be on the show, right? The Bloodline needs to be like, we're figuring out family business, and that's all we're doing. We're not getting involved with titles and championships, because the Ulafalo is more important right now in this story than any championship should be. Who's the tribal chief? That should be the story we're telling with the Bloodline. Who's going to ultimately be the guy who has the Ulafalo around his neck? Because in that culture, that's the biggest thing you can have. Being the chief is the biggest thing you can have in that culture. So why is Solo going after titles? Why is Roman potentially going to go after the title? We need to have the Bloodline within itself. Get Cody, get Owens, get all of them out of it. Bloodline versus Bloodline. That needs to be the story until the end of the Bloodline. And through WrestleMania, from now on, Bloodline. Don't put Cody in it. Don't put Theory or Waller or any other person on SmackDown in that storyline. It needs to be Roman versus Solo. That's what we're booking here. That needs to be what gets booked. Anything outside of that ruins the story. Right? And then ultimately it needs to lead to Roman versus Rock at WrestleMania. Right? There's 3 matches you could set up at this proximity, at this very moment, August 30th. I'm recording this around 9 a.m. Friday, August 30th. At this very moment, I have 3 matches you could have as WrestleMania matches that would be bangers. Usos versus Guerrillas of Destiny, which was the New Japan name for the Tongans. Tama Tonga Tangaloa versus the Usos. No titles need to be involved there. This is family business. Right? Jacob versus Solo. Jacob's turning on Solo. They've planted seeds for this already. With Jacob having to turn the title over to Tangaloa. Jacob's not going to put up with that bullshit. Because Jacob's the best thing in the new Bloodline right now. Jacob's turning on Solo. So we get the Usos versus Guerrillas of Destiny. Solo versus Jacob. Roman versus Rock. And if you want like a little comedy match, I think you could put Sammy, if Sammy's involved in this, you could have Sammy versus Talalonga or Talatonga or whatever they're going to call Hikuleo. Right? I think you could do that in some sort of comedy match or something, but I don't necessarily think that's necessary. Rock Roman, Solo Jacob, Usos Tongans. 3 WrestleMania matches throughout that weekend. That would be bangers. You have it right now. You have to get there, though. And you got to get Cody out of this. You got to remove, right? But you don't have anyone else for Cody to face. Because the next biggest baby face, or excuse me, the next biggest heel is Santos Escobar or Andrade or Carmelo Hayes. I'm not quite sure what Andrade actually is. Is he a face or a heel? But it's either Santos or Carmelo. And Carmelo's definitely like not strong in WWE main roster. So you have Santos versus Cody. You could do it. I don't think it works. Why are we not building heels? Makes no sense to me. And the best heels you've built are Dom and Liv in that Judgment Day, but they're the chicken shit heels. Those are easy to do. The strong badass don't give a fuck about the rules heel. Why are you not doing this? Why are we not building someone strong in that area? It just makes no sense to me. You failed on Braun Breaker doing that. You failed with Bronson Reed in doing that. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Those two things ruined Raw for me, right? And the women's tag division's atrocious. The tag division itself is kind of atrocious because, again, you have the titles on Judgment Day and Bloodline, and so they're stuck in separate stories. There's no actual tag division. The IC title is decent, but you basically are just doing a tournament right now. You got LA Knight issuing open challenges, which is fine. You're trying to build a mid card. I enjoy that. But, I mean, we really got to question, is Triple H really who everyone thinks he is? And I would say no. I think Shawn Michaels is a better booker. I think he's better at building stories. And a lot of people say, well, he's got a lot more, of the circumstances on his side, where NXT is they're sort of, they don't travel. Stop with that bullshit. Stop with all that bullshit. That's an excuse at this point. There's no reason in the world why you can't put a superstar, on, if you're working Monday Night Raw, why Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday you can't be in the Performance Center, because you're running weekend shows, sure. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you're working. Go to the Performance Center Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday and work on the matches or work on I don't understand why, and none of that has to do with the storyline, right? Shawn Michaels is just better at writing stories and building characters. That's just the truth right now, right? So let's go to what he's got for us with No Mercy. Yeah, let's go ahead and go to No Mercy predictions, right? So we'll pull up the No Mercy card here. We got 6 matches. With I think 5 of them being championship matches, and then the 6th one being a blood feud. 2 of them involve 2 TNA superstars, which is fucking awesome, dude. Awesome as hell. So let's start with Wesley and Zach Wentz. Probably the match I care less about. I don't necessarily know how this goes. I kind of hope, though, that I don't know. I feel like there's more here that they're gonna give us. I don't know. I feel like this could blow up and the feud could end at Bound for Glory. I would be fun. Which typically happens in October. I'm going Wesley. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Wesley here. But I think this would be a really fun match. I'm gonna go Wesley as the winner of this match. So now let's move on to the women's North American Championship. Kalani Jordan versus Wendy Chu. Kalani, I think, wins this match. But I think we might get some like things that happen here. Maybe like a Tatum Paxley, or maybe Rosemary shows up again. And Wendy Chu maybe build some sort of faction or something. I don't know. But I do think Kalani Jordan's going to retain the title. I don't see them putting it on Wendy Chu. But I do like the story they're telling right now. So Kalani wins that one. I think that one's pretty easy. The men's North American Championship, Oba versus Tony D. I don't think Tony D's beating Oba. I don't. I think Oba Femi does his shit and wins the title here. Part of me is like, well, maybe they can call Oba to the main roster, but I don't know where the fuck they build him, push him, or put him, and they're definitely not going to build a dominant heel out of him. So, part of me is afraid, like, as an NXT fan, my fear is any of these superstars, like a Roxanne Perez. Now, Roxanne's easy because you could just put her as a babyface again and throw her against Tiffany Stratton, and I think you could build something there. But someone like Oba or Tony D or, we've seen this now with Dragunov and Carmella, who have actual characters that you could build off of, and Triple H does nothing with them. I'm just scared that moving someone like Oba or Tony D or Roxanne up would just be a waste of the potential that they have. So Oba, I'm picking Oba. Oba's my dude. I hope Oba holds this title for a little bit longer, continues to be dominant, until he gets that opportunity at the NXT Championship. Next match we'll talk about is the tag team titles. Chase University, which is Andre Chase and Ridge Holland, versus Fraxium, Nathan Fraser and Axiom. Chase U, I think, is going to retain. Chase U retains. And then I think Fraser and Axiom have some sort of drama where they end up breaking up. I think we might run a feud between the two to end through the rest of the year. So that leaves the women's title and the NXT title. Roxanne Perez versus Jada Parker is very difficult to pick. Being that both are heels, theoretically, I think Roxanne's going to retain. I don't quite think Jada Parker's quite ready yet for championship gold. But I'm glad she's getting an opportunity, but I don't think she wins. And then, the promo on Tuesday leads me to believe we're getting a debut. And it's one of two people. It's either Stephanie Vaquer or Julia. I'm leaning towards Julia. I'm leaning that we might even get both of them. We might get both of those women on Sunday. And that makes me very interested. Very interested indeed. And then we end the night with Ethan Page versus Joe Hendry. Guys, NXT, do me a favor. I love Ethan Page. Ethan Page is a very, very good heel. I love what he's working with. Instantly gave him something to do and made him important in WWE, right? Joe Hendry needs to win this match. Here's why. Joe Hendry needs to win this match and hold the title through Bound for Glory. Here's why. Because Joe Hendry could theoretically walk into Bound for Glory as NXT champion to fight Nick Nemeth, the TNA champion, and win both. Leave the night. He could leave Bound for Glory in October with the NXT and the TNA World Champions. Then you could put the TNA Championship on NXT TV. Joe Hendry, I believe, needs to win the title here. Because Bound for Glory happens before Halloween Havoc. Now, he can lose the NXT title at Halloween Havoc. But you need to have the visual of Joe Hendry being a double champion in two separate companies. You need to have that visual. And so to have him walk into Bound for Glory as NXT champion and to walk out of Bound for Glory as a double champion, that's insane. That would be crazy. That would be the complete opposite of what AEW did, where they made Kenny Omega a double champion, but he worked in AEW, right? And they formed a partnership with TNA and essentially stole their championship, right? where WWE can come in and say, hey, we'll let Joe Hendry, he's a big superstar. We'll get some benefit out of having him here. We'll get some people interested in watching. And then we'll give him our championship. Now it's going to be third tier. It's the minor leagues, but it's still the third biggest world champion in the world. And we'll put it on Joe Hendry. And then he can walk into Bound for Glory and win their title and be a double champion. I think that that's the biggest thing that WWE can do right now. Right? Trick Williams is the referee. You can build Trick versus Ethan up. You could build a fatal four-way out of this because Pete Dunne, might get involved. And so you might get a fatal four-way at Halloween Havoc between Pete Dunne, Trick Williams, Joe Hendry, and Ethan Page. You could end up having that, right? Where Ethan can win it back, Trick can win it back, whatever, right? There's a lot of potential here. Joe Hendry needs to win this title. Because a lot of the narrative is that there's no way Joe Hendry wins his title. Because WWE would never let their title leave WWE's hands. Guys, Joe Hendry's essentially WWE, right? Joe Hendry walking into Bound for Glory, and let me say this a little again. I think Joe Hendry should leave Halloween Havoc as well, because in the month of November is WrestleCade. This is how I'll transition us into supporting indie wrestling. In the month of September is WrestleCade. Here in North Carolina, the second or the biggest wrestling convention. It's SummerSlam week, Survivor Series weekend. The biggest wrestling convention of the year. You have all the big names here. I mean, this year they got Dennis Rodman lined up, Joe Hendry, Jordan Grace, anybody from TNA is going to be here. All the big mainstream indie stars are going to be here. Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, Ric Flair is going to be here. Legend Sting's going to be, right? This is a big year in WrestleCade. They've had big years, but this is one of the biggest. Team Angle's getting back together, minus Charlie Haas. I don't know what's going on in that situation, but Shelton Benjamin and Kurt Angle will be here doing picture, right? WrestleCade is going to be big this year. The biggest wrestling convention of the year is going to be here, right? Joe Hendry taking pictures with the TNA and the NXT titles, that's an image that builds the brand, right? I think Joe Hendry should be NXT champion to end the year, right? Yeah, so let's go on to this final thing. Supporting independent wrestling. This comes out of last Sunday. I went to a local indie show here, AML. They're the ones who actually put on WrestleCade, what I was just talking about. Their owners sort of run that. And they're one of the best in the Southeast. Terrific shows. I've been to 2 or 3 in the last 2 or 3 years. And I don't visit as often. They travel to a lot of different places that are kind of far from me. And typically, I used to not have Sundays off work, but now I do. And some their Saturday shows I'm not going to do. I just can't. Right. And so I'm not as big of an indie fan as I used to be. But this was a fantastic show. I met Bubba Ray Dudley, Enzo Amore, I met Nick Nemeth again, and then Arn and Brock Anderson, right? Those were in the meet and greets. Fantastic time with that. And then you get to the show going on, right? And I've been to plenty of indie shows. And I remember the last indie show that I went to was a company here at PWX. I don't think they exist anymore. And I followed them for a year. I went to every show for a year, right? with them, the year of 2019, right? 2019 through the one show they ran in 2020 before they had to close down due to COVID. Right, all of 2019, I went to every single show, right, and was a big part of it and loved it. I'll tell you this though. I got real bored with it real quick. It just wasn't. It wasn't a good. It was a good atmosphere, but I just felt like because I require storylines, and it just felt like random matches being put together. When you follow it on a month-to-month basis, right, and there's no story there, it just wasn't real entertaining, right? Going to random indie shows when they're in your city and they're not coming back for a year, it makes it a fun experience. But also, a lot of the wrestling just wasn't fun. It wasn't entertaining, right? I'll just be honest with you. That's just how I felt. AML is different, man. The last show I went with AML was 2022, and even then, like, it just felt off to me. I really didn't care about the matches. The crowd was hype. It just, something about this show on Sunday that I went to was just there. I knew a lot of the talent in the ring, even though they were indie. All the matches were just fun. There's a girl they have there named Clara. She's a perfect heel. Now I'm not a big fan of intergender wrestling, but they ran this gauntlet match, which was run like an actual gauntlet match, not like how Tony Khan runs a gauntlet match. Right? An actual gauntlet match, when you're doing like a gauntlet eliminator, is everyone comes out in the ring and you have to, it's like a Royal Rumble, right? Not, we have 10 people scheduled for this, but if the third person comes out and pins someone, the match is over. That makes no fucking sense. Anyway, so she's in here and she's, outnumbered and strengthened because of, she's a woman and she's in the ring with other guys, and she does a good job sort of being that sneaky heel and all of that. Beats up on the old guy, or beats up on the sort of dumb, stupid character they have there named the Sultan, which is just supposed to be straight comedy. Yeah, that was fun. All of that match was fun. You had just fantastic time. Bubba Ray was in a match against Fodder. If you follow I think he's part of NWA, you would know Fodder. He's married to Angelina Love, and she's still a baddie at her age. If from my TNA originals out there, right, and they had it was like a street fight, but didn't really leave the ring, to be honest with you, but was still fun. When you see Bubba Ray, like, he's at an age where he's not going to put on a lot of dangerous things, but he can still control the crowd, right? And so, like, the big thing with Bubba is tables. And so he's going to work the crowd to start, and we're cheering, we want tables, and he gives us a table spot, and it's real fun, right? It's real fun. And then, Enzo had a match against a guy named Zuka King. Zuka King is really good. Enzo, cut one of his best promos I've ever heard at this show, and he's really good on the mic still. I forgot to tell you they ran a tag team match prior to this. Money ENT, I think, was the name of the heel group, and they played the heel part perfectly. They fought Bojack, which is a really big name on the indie scene, and by big I mean like he's bigger than Bronson Reed. And this dude tried to dive over the top rope, and I got scared for a minute. But Bojack is great. I love Bojack. Right, and then in this gauntlet you had Jeff Hardy come out, which was fun. You had like the guy everyone loves. Every indie promotion has that one superstar that like is local, that's been there for forever, and everyone knows who he is and everyone loves him. Well, that dude here is a guy named White Mike. And this dude is, anytime he comes out, White Mike gets the biggest pop of the night. And bro, he's great. He's awesome. You get, ultimately though, I came for Nick Nemeth. That's the only reason I even bought tickets for this. And he was in a match for the AML World Championship against their champion, Brad Attitude. Now, let me set this up for you because I follow AML through their social media. I've never seen Brad Attitude lose a match, except the last time he lost the title. But I think there was some sort of stipulation where it was like no DQ, so like he couldn't cheat or whatever. Like he's like the Roman Reigns of AML in that this dude will find a way to keep his title, right? He'll cause a DQ, whatever. Right? I've never seen him lose his title. So I came in expecting Nick Nemeth to lose this match. This was one of the greatest indie show matches I've ever seen in my life. The crowd was into it. Brad Attitude should be on TV, my guy. This dude he has it. He has the size. He has the wrestling ability. Like, he's not going to do them flippy shits. He's not about, in fact, he calls himself the 1-star superstar, right? Making fun of I believe he's making fun of Meltzer's 5-star rating, right? The 1-star superstar. I love Brad Attitude, right? If he wasn't fighting Nick Nemeth, that's who I would have been cheering for. He just has the look, the size, the gimmick, the in-ring ability, the mic work. He's great. He's great on everything. And I don't know if it's just he hasn't got the opportunity or if he just doesn't want there are some guys who are happy running the indies. And I think we have to, let them do that. And so this was one of the greatest indie matches I have ever seen in my life, right? Nick Nemeth came close to winning this title like 5 or 6 different times. And every time there was a false finish, I got more and more out of my seat, or on the edge of my seat. Right? This match was fantastic. Like, there was a point in this match where this crowd, and there was maybe 1,000 people here in this high school gym, right? And the acoustics made it louder than it could have because it's a high school gym, right? But there was about 1,000 people in there. And I had more fun in this match than any Monday Night Raw I've been to recently, any SmackDown I've been to recently, any PLE that I've been to recently. I've had more fun, and the crowd seemed more alive during this match than any other match I've ever been to. It was loud as shit in there. 1,000 people. Right? This match was fantastic. And I don't know how it translates on their taping of it that you can go and purchase. I think it's like titlematchnetwork.com or something like that you can go and watch it. So the website's on their Twitter, AML Wrestling. Fantastic, dude. And here's why I believe we need to support independent wrestling. As much as I love WWE's developmental system, signing NIL athletes, and as much as I love that, you still need these guys who have put in work. You still need the guys like Kevin Owens who ran the indies, and the guys like the Brad Attitudes out there who haven't got a shot should get a shot. Right? I love the idea of taking some athletes and turning them into sports entertainers. But what I love even more is the guy like there's a dude, he doesn't run local around here that much anymore. He runs more of his hometown of Georgia, and I think he just became a trainer of a wrestling school somewhere out west. But his name's Drew Adler. And this dude's put in 20 years in this business. He's never got from my understanding, from what I've seen, he's never really had that big shot opportunity. Maybe he just doesn't want to do it. I don't know the whole story, right? Drew Adler's fantastic. If you're a big I think as a wrestling fan, casual or not, we need to support the business, right? In the same way that I would say as a football fan, I need to support the amateur, the developmental system, right? I think a true football fan should, right? If I'm a basketball fan, I should support the G League, right? Anything that would be, right? My number one sport's hockey, right? If I'm a hockey fan, if I love the NHL, I need to support college hockey and need to support. It doesn't mean I have to watch it all the time. Doesn't mean I have to give my money all the way to it, right? But I try to go to one or two what the AHL is, the developmental league in hockey. I try to go to one or two of their games a year, right? To support that team and to support those players. And right, if I really care about the state of wrestling, and I do as a wrestling fan, if I cared about the future of wrestling, I would support independent wrestling, because there's a lot of guys down there. Let me tell you, there's a lot of young guys coming up through the developmental independent scene. They're going to be big names. I believe it. Let me just say one more thing about AML. Their ring announcer, Miss Haley, is the best ring announcer I've ever. And I know, but what about Sam Irvin? No. Miss Haley. I don't know her last name, and I think it's weird to try to find that information. This is, to be honest. But Haley, ring announcer Haley, is better at ring announcing to me. Sam has a great voice and she's unique and stuff, but Haley's better, and she looks better. She thick. Like, she look like she better than Sam. Like, give her a shot. WWE, put her on NXT. I like Mike Rome, but go sign Haley. And while you're there, sign her boyfriend Axton, because he's one of these up and coming talents that I'm telling you, coming from this independent scene, he's gonna be a star. I love everything about it. I loved everything about this AML show, and we need to. Not every independent promotion deserves our support, though. There's some people who do bad business. Don't support those. Support the good ones, though. Find your local company and support them. Those who put on good business, that run a good business and put on great product, support them, because that's the future of this industry. And so that's where I'll end with that. So the last thing I want to do, I haven't done a react to that in what feels like quite a while. So we're going to do one, and this is based off of a tweet that I saw from Chelsea Green. In response to a Fightful article, that was about, it was titled, Tessa Blanchard details personal struggles after TNA title win and TNA release. And essentially, Tessa went in to talk about, she got released and she had some dark days and she contemplated suicide. If that's true, which I have no reason not to believe Tessa, yeah, I feel for her, man. I feel for her, right? Now, that doesn't make what she's accused of doing right? It doesn't make that right. Hear me out. But if she went into dark, like a depressive state, that's a hard place to get out of, right? And I wish that on nobody, right? So here's Chelsea Green's response. She says, I don't wish self-harm or thoughts of suicide on anyone, and I hope she has found peace. However, a simple I am sorry goes a long way. We haven't heard that yet. Accountability matters, and a redemption tour of interviews won't erase the actions of an egotistical bully. Here's what I got to say to Chelsea Green. Look, Chelsea, just because you haven't forgiven her yet doesn't, and because maybe she hasn't said sorry to you yet personally, doesn't mean she if La Negra and some of Red Velvet and some of the other girls have forgiven her, I don't see like here's the thing. We live in this age where like if you do something, that's what you're sort of, no matter if you can, like, we don't offer grace. We don't offer this opportunity for people to better themselves. So and Tessa Blanchard, this isn't an excuse, but she was young. How many of us have done stupid shit when we were young? Right? I mean, this was what, 5, 6, 7 years ago that all of this was happening, like 5 years ago, right? Tessa Blanchard was like what, 25? She's 29 now. So yeah, Tessa was like 23, 24 years old. How many of us didn't do stupid shit in our early 20s? Right? Where we're still like, the brain doesn't fully mature till you're 25. So like I don't understand this. Like, I'm not ever gonna forgive this person, or or we don't allow people to have a second chance, and we don't allow people to make mistakes and to grow. Like, this isn't saying that what Tessa did was good. If she was a bully in the locker room, if she said something she shouldn't have said, sure, hold her accountable to that. But also allow her the opportunity to grow and offer forgiveness. Being bitter about it, about what happened 5 years ago, isn't going to change anything, right? Maybe she hasn't said I'm sorry to you individually, Chelsea, but I'm sure she's offered apologies to others, maybe that were more negatively affected. I don't know the whole situation. I don't like this idea that Tessa Blanchard has to consistently be blacklisted because of mistakes she made in her early 20s, when she obviously, like, if you see her now, she looks like she's grown from it, and she's gotten that, I think she deserves a second chance. She doesn't need to be wrestling in Mexico, and that's where she makes her money from. Tessa Blanchard, I'm going to say this right now. Tessa Blanchard at one point was the best women's wrestler on the planet. And I believe she could be that person still. And NXT would definitely benefit from having Tessa Blanchard here. 100% would benefit from having Tessa Blanchard on NXT or in any way in the WWE. 100% believe that would be a dominant force on a WWE roster. AEW would benefit from having Tessa Blanchard. Anyone sitting here being like, I'm never going to forgive Tessa Blanchard, or who consistently label her as racist or whatever you want to label her as, without recognizing that a lot of the people who she was, that she made those mistakes against, have forgiven her and are her friend. Like, she hangs out with La Negra and I want to say that's her name. I do. I don't. And then Red Velvet. She hangs out with them all the time. I don't know if y'all know this, but at the time of her release, she was rooming with Moose. And right, I find it hard to believe that Tessa Blanchard was or is racist at all. I really find that hard to believe. There's been zero evidence of it, outside of maybe she said a word, right? And if she said the N-word and the hard, in a wrong, really in any context. But I'm gonna be real honest with you. This isn't a word that anybody should say. There's no real reason why that word ever in any context has, this is how I believe about it. If you allow it to be said in your music as a degrading term, which it is, if you allow it there, you're a hypocrite if you don't allow it anywhere else. And that means no one should be able to say it. You can't own a word. You can't say, well, this is only for one type of... No. That's not how words work. Right? And if she made a mistake at 2021 years old, just maybe playing around or whatever, and she made a mistake, like, you got to offer forgiveness for that. You got to offer grace to that and allow her to make a mistake and then to grow from it, which it looks like she has. So this idea from Chelsea that, like, we got to continue to hold her accountable, I think she's been more than accountable for this action. Right? So I want to know what you guys want to say about it. This is another episode of the Slap and Meat Wrestling Podcast. Thank you all for listening. Like, share, subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll see you all on the next episode.
Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If all I get's a moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. 'Cause lately